Right, so what we want is the ability to have a button somewhere in this page and then basically send a request to our backend and then add a new student. So in here, let's go ahead and start from the backend. So we're going to open up source, main, Java, student, and then controller. And in here, what we're going to do is the following. So let me just expand that. So here we want to have a method. So public void, and then add, and then student. And we want to get the student from the request. So add request and then body. This will be student and then student, just like that. And now we want to basically call the student service, and then we want to say dot and then add and then student, and we will pass the student just like that. Now I'm going to press option and then create method add student in service. There we go. And this is good stuff. So now what I'm going to do is the following. For now, let's just keep it super simple and have no validation. But ideally, what you want is basically check if email is and then taken. And then if it's taken, you throw an error, so on and so forth. But we'll actually implement this later when we cover error handling. So now what I want to do is simply say student repository dot and then save and then student. And to be honest, this is pretty much everything we have to do. So you can see that this was super simple. Now let's go ahead and actually test these changes using Postman. So here I'm going to open up Postman. So I have Postman installed. And Postman, it's a REST client that we can use in order to test our APIs. So here I'm going to basically run the application, and Postman should start in a second. And let me put it full screen. And I had a bunch of things that I was doing, so let me just close all of these tabs. So let's see, the backend is up and running. Now in here, let's just click on here. So plus sign, and then this will be a post request. This will be local host, and then column 8080 /API /v1 /students. And then the body will be, so in here, we want this to be raw and then text. So change that to JSON. And then we want to have a student with name. And here, let's just say Amigos code. And then the gender will be male. And finally, we need to have the email. And this will be amigoscode.com. Or actually, hello@amigoscode.com. So make sure that you have this exact same payload right here. And also I'm going to leave this in the description of this video so that you can just copy and paste, as well as the link where you can download and install Postman. So here, now, if I send this request, you can see that we have a 405 method not allowed. And this is because in here, so you can see that we have an error. And basically, if I go back to the student controller for a second, so in here, we have just a method, right? But we're not exposing it as a RESTful API. So here, let's just say that this will be a post mapping, and this will fix the issue. So let's restart the application, and there we go. So in our database in here, so select, and then count, and then star from, and then student, we have 1000. So let's try and send this request. Oh, we have an internal 500. So let's have a look. So it's actually debugging live in the actual course, which is fun. All right, so let's have a look. Right, error duplicate key violates unique constraint. And basically what is happening is that we manually added those 1000 students into our database. So what we're going to do for now is the following. Let's just say delete and then from and then student. So we have this data, we can always add it back. So student, and then there we go. So 1000 people deleted. And if I send this request, you can see this works. Now let me send it again. You can see that this now works, right? Because now I'm actually adding the data through Spring Data JPA, and the sequence is actually going from 1, 2, 3, 4. Whereas before the sequence was at 1, but we had 1000 people in there already with those ID taken, right? So here, if I now say select count, you can see that we have 2 students. And if I open up the UI in here, so now we're going to have only 2 people. So if I reload, you can see that we have Amigos called twice, right? So we're not checking whether the email is already there because I want to cover error handling next. But you can see that we can add new students with Postman. Next, what we need is a button somewhere in our screen that allows us to add a student from our UI. So this was the only thing that I got it wrong. And yeah, so again, this is because we took all of those students, right? So remember, we added 1000 students directly through PSQL and not through Spring Data JPA, basically not through our code. Therefore, the sequence wasn't aware and it didn't increment the actual value for us. But now, because we are adding through, so here, let's add someone else. So let's say Jamila, and then she's a female. And here I'm going to say Jamila at amigoscode.com, send this works, 200 status code. And here, if I reload, you can see that we have Jamila in here. So next, let's go ahead and add a button in our UI.